Senator Gillibrand, thanks very much for joining us tonight. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Okay, so the Homeowner Tax Fairness Act, this is the first piece of legislation that you're going to introduce during the 2011 Congress. Why did you decide to go for property tax relief out of the whole realm of things that you might have focused on if you chose this?
Well, no matter where I travel in New York, people are very concerned about how high our taxes are in New York, particularly property taxes. We pay some of the highest property taxes in the country. And so what I can do on the federal level is I can make sure that all families can deduct their property taxes. Right now, only those families that itemize are able to deduct those property taxes. And if we ensure that all families can deduct them, it's worth about $1 billion to New Yorkers.
So actually, there are some people, this is the other end of an argument. There are some people who say there should be no itemization, period. And this is the other end of that argument. Clearly, you are not one of those people.
Well, you know, when we do tax policy, it's all about choices. And I want to make sure that we have middle-class tax cuts. I've really focused my time in the House and the Senate on middle-class tax relief and tax relief for small businesses. And so this is very consistent with that. And I think making sure that everyone can itemize, everyone can have the deduction regardless of whether they itemize really is a question of fairness. And middle-class families should have that deduction.
This is actually obviously a big argument that's going on in New York right now regarding property tax caps and relief. Governor Andrew Cuomo, of course, has proposed a 2% cap. Where do you stand on that?
Well, you know, the governor has talked about his plans and what he wants to do. And what I want to do is help on the federal level, because there's a couple of ways that property taxes are affected by the federal law. One is this deduction issue and making sure that we are able to deduct matters. The second way I can affect property taxes is by ending unfunded mandates. One of the things that really drives local property taxes is often things like No Child Left Behind, where there were all these requirements but no federal funding to pay for them, like extra teacher time or teacher training or administrative training. It was underfunded by over $70 billion. So I really fight against the unfunded mandates. And then the third thing I can do to affect property taxes is focus my advocacy on trying to get investments for infrastructure, because sometimes for a lot of our cities and towns across New York, basic infrastructure drives property taxes. So if a town is under a consent order to get in, they have to have a new sewer system, that will raise property taxes to have to pay for it. So if I can get that money for those sewer systems, I can help them lower property taxes.
Okay, but
so that's where my focus is.
Okay, just to be clear though, do you have a position on property tax caps in general or no?
Not really. I mean, I really focus on what I can do on the federal level. I'm very certain that our property taxes are too high and something must be done. Right. So I really focus my attention on what I can do for that debate. Okay.
I actually want to, and I'm sure most people would not debate you on that particular point. The issue also, you were mentioning things that are important, programs that are important at the federal level, and actually the president has come out with his budget, and there are some programs that are actually cut. And you put out a statement yesterday expressing support for his efforts, but so generally speaking, writ large, but some concern about the cuts that are made to critical services, FMAP, clean water infrastructure, such as what you were just mentioning, brownfields and Superfund, and then the big one, transportation funding. So what's interesting here, though, is that the criticism from the sort of more liberal Democratic wing of the party has been pretty muted, while the Republicans actually are saying that he doesn't go far enough.
Well, you know, obviously we need to cut our spending, we need to pay down the debt, we need to reduce the deficit. And the president has done some very tough work to make those decisions and to create those priorities. And so I think his budget is a very good place to start. I don't agree with all his cuts. I have concerns about cuts to home heating assistance, for example. We have a state where a lot of our seniors, a lot of our working families rely on that home heating assistance to be able to protect their families during winter months. And so I'm concerned about those cuts. But I think, you know, we do need to cut spending. We do need to get rid of the waste, the fraud, the abuse in all of our spending. And I think the president is really starting at a very good place.
But you don't think that this is going to be where it ends up necessarily?
Correct. I mean, the Senate will produce its own budget, and so we will do the tough work on our side as well to come up with our priorities. And my priorities are really focusing on middle-class families. That's why this property tax relief is so important, because it really affects middle-class families and a lot of our seniors. So that's my priority, middle-class families and small businesses, and I'm just going to keep fighting for funding priorities that reflect that priority.
You know, and just imparting, and on your future, political future specifically, there was a poll this week that came out, the Siena poll, that shows that you're at a 57 approval rating. That's 57% 40%. 4 months ago, it was 50%. So you're definitely on the rise. But then this morning, the FEC numbers came out, the fundraising numbers, and you've got just over 600,000. You don't have that much time, actually, before you have to run again. So are you going to be ramping up your political effort?
It's true. But I'm really focused on the economy. I really think the most important thing for New York right now is getting jobs created. And what the federal government can do is help create a landscape that makes it easier for small businesses and entrepreneurs and innovators to create those jobs that we desperately need.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Senator Gillibrand. It's good to see you. We'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, Liz.